Hi everyone, it's The Tides Changing here, and welcome to the second video in my Let's Renovate Sunset Valley series. In this video, I will be renovating shotgun style, which is a starter home in Sunset Valley. But before we get started with the actual renovation, I'm doing a quick creative sim to make a client, since that is what some of you said that you wanted to see. And one of you in the comments suggested that I do an artsy themed renovation, so this sim here is actually an artist slash musician, and another one of you did suggest to do a very feminine kind of renovation, so I will do that for the next one. I'll make a super girly girl and renovate it to suit her style. But getting back to this guy, I gave him that, I guess, kind of like the stereotypically artsy hair that came with university. I don't know, that's just the kind of hair that seemed to suit that. And I gave him kind of like run down looking clothes, which when you see his traits in a few seconds, you'll understand why. But I only did his everyday and sleepwear. I figured it was pointless to do all the outfits since you're not really going to see them into the video. But now I'm moving on to the traits, and he is artistic, frugal, which is why I gave him the ratty clothing, because, I figured he just kind of would buy, like, old clothes or just would never buy new ones. He is also eccentric, a cat lover, and virtuoso. And the reason why he's a cat lover is because he has a cute little cat that lives with him, and her name is Penny, and I made her a calico just because, I don't know, I like calicos, and I think they're cute. So, this house will be cat-friendly, and she is friendly, clueless, and a hunter. Now we're moving on to the actual renovation itself. So I'm just starting off the renovation with a quick showing of the house itself, so, you can see what it looks like prior to me getting rid of everything and redoing it. So it's like the monotone, it's just dreary and plain on the inside, kind of dated looking. But now I'm getting rid of everything so that I can begin the actual renovation. So I'm pretty much just gutting the entire house, taking out all the floor and wall paints, because I didn't really like what was in there, obviously. And what I'm doing here is I'm lowering it down to foundation height because I feel like this house would look a lot better if it was up foundation level, It's just, I feel like a rectangle directly on the ground is sort of boring, so I just raised it up so I can make things look a little more interesting. And I also put that bumped out area in the front so that, the shape was more interesting than a rectangle, because rectangles are just boring. At least the monotone was kind of a different shape, so I didn't really need to do that. But I added very little onto the house, so I think it still fits with the renovation, because, with these I don't want to be altering the house itself too much. And there I just placed the stairs going up to the porch, which, you kind of need. And I just think it looks a lot better having that bump out. It just adds a lot more character to it. And right here I'm putting in all the windows. And I just used those larger windows initially. I believe they're the same ones I used on the monotone, apart from the smaller one in the bathroom. Just because I guess I typically like to use smaller windows in the bathroom sometimes. I just have this thing where I don't like putting big windows in the bathrooms, even though I know it's Sims and they don't really care if people can look in and see them while you're using the bathroom. But I don't know. I still just feel better if I use smaller windows that people can't see into as well. And right now I'm just putting in some lights, just getting the lighting in there initially before I start to actually furnish the place. Before furnishing, though, I did go and change all the windows that I put in just because I didn't like that I used the same window all over the house, and I wanted to use something different since I did use those windows on the monotone renovation, and I used that flower window right there where the kitchen's going to be, because with kitchens, I don't like having bigger windows in there because then they like when you look in from the outside, you see the counter, and that just to me looks weird. I like to have windows that come up higher than the top of the counter, if that makes any sense. But right now I'm starting on the living room, and I'm putting in this older TV that came with University Life stuff just because I figured, he wouldn't have a new fancy TV, especially considering he's frugal. He's just going to get an old 90s TV. And I'm using this crate couch that came, he's eccentric and frugal, so, he might just do some unconventional things with furnishing just to save money. So, he could have gone dumpster diving and found some crates and maybe some plywood and, a futon cushion, and just put it all together. I mean, hopefully if you found a futon cushion on the couch, he washed it first, but I don't know. And I also put in this worn chair that came with, I believe, 70s, 80s, 90s stuff. So just keeping with that old look, like he just went to a thrift store and got it, or just found it in a dumpster. Then I used the crate chair that came with University Life stuff as well, just to continue with him being resourceful and using crates thing. And I should clarify that even though I said he was frugal, the house itself doesn't end up being very cheap, just because, like I said in the previous one, I don't really like to limit myself as far as money goes. I just like to... I wanted this to have a frugal look, but it's not necessarily a frugal price, just like I put in what I wanted to make it look the way I wanted to. And I don't know, that's what I like to do. I like to just put in what I want just to get it to look how I want. And I did initially put in this University Life coffee table, the IKEA looking one, but I wanted to play around with something a little different, something that looked like he repurposed something or found something old and used it. So I ended up going with this old coffee table that came with, I believe it was Generations. I wanted to be like he went to a thrift store and, found a cheap coffee table and just took it home because he doesn't really care about everything matching perfectly. He just cares about being cheap. That's the bottom line. Bottom line for this frugal guy. He's also a little bit artsy, so, he kind of uses things in a different way, I guess, like using milk crates to make a chair, and right there above the TV, I wanted some kind of accent on the wall, so I put 2 different shelves, made them, 2 different kinds of material, like I said, this guy doesn't really care too much about things matching, he just maybe found 2 cheap shelves and was like, here, let me just put them on my wall, and then I also put that, I guess, it's the flag that came with the University Life stuff, so this does have a lot of University Life things in it, because I also wanted to be kind of like, he's just out of college on his own, has to keep things cheap, so there's a lot of school posters around, as you'll see in a little bit, he's got a good bit of school spirit, so he's got some mementos from his college days, and I also use these desks that came with University Life stuff, just to keep with that, cheap student house look, so I put them 2 different desks into an L shape, which I think gives a pretty interesting look. And I then used this chair that also came with University Life stuff. Like I said, a lot of University Life stuff. And I changed it from the white color to be a kind of wood because I felt like having the desks be a white pattern would look too new. And I wanted it to look like these were old desks that he just found in surplus or something like that. Because I know some campuses like mine has a surplus where you can go and get used desks that, the teachers don't want anymore. So maybe he got the desks from there and the chair, that's like the typical university type seating. And why I put 2 computers here, which I know really didn't help the price at all, was because I know some people will have a laptop hooked up to a monitor, which is something that I do. Like I have my laptop sitting on the right side of my desk, and then it's hooked up to a monitor. I don't actually have a desktop, but I still like to use a monitor with my laptop. So that's kind of what I wanted this desk setup to look like, even though, like I said, it did drive up the price a bit. And right here next to the desk is a pet bed for Penny, so she can just curl up next to him while he's working at his desk. And I then put these bookshelves that came with University Life above the desk just because I want there to be a ton of books, like you've got all the book clutter around. Like, I also wanted to kind of seem like this guy's just clutter, he just leaves stuff all over the place. He's got lots of books too, I guess from his college days. Maybe he's still good in college or something. Maybe, he's going back for a secondary. I don't know. I don't know. This could also be a good house, good in college type looking house. But here I'm just putting some stuff up on the shelves there, some decorations to make things look nice. And yeah, I like kind of the L-shaped thing I did where you have the regular shelves on, against the window side of the wall of the desk. And I also put the pictures under there because I thought it'd be kind of neat, just to, like he wants some pictures of his friends hanging there so while he's working on his desk he can just look at them. And there are red accents throughout this house. I forgot to mention, but I did make his favorite color red, so I try to put red accents throughout this whole thing to go with that. The criticism kind of went by fast, so that slipped by me. So there's red curtains, you got the red rug, the chair's red, the couch has a red checker pattern, and that area of the furnishing's pretty much done, so now I'm moving on to the kitchen, and instead of sticking the fridge next to the counters like I normally do, I just stuck it off on that wall there to do something different, and I didn't do anything crazy with the counters this time, I just did a silver granite kind of thing, and wood cabinets, nothing too crazy. I did experiment with making them white, but I didn't really like that, so I just went back to the wood. And, here I'm just sticking in the upper cabinets and stuff, after the lime green countertops in the last renovation, I didn't really end up liking them as much as I thought I did, so, I want to do something different with these, but I really do like how this kitchen looks. It's classical, but not too old looking, it's a nice balance, and then you got a nice counter island right there with some bar stools at it. And I didn't end up putting a dining table in here because it would have been right there as you walk in the door. It just would have been cramped to have a dining table right there. And I figured with the 3 bar stools, that would be enough sitting, especially for a guy, living on his own. You don't really need a whole lot of seating. I think some bar stools suffice. So here I'm just putting some knickknacks in to kind of just make the kitchen look more lived in. So you got some paper towels, and I tried putting those, I guess, Chinese porcelain things that came with World Adventures in, but they seem kind of out of place there, so I took them back out. And I just put that bag of pet food off to the side so I'd remember to place it. I wanted there to look like there was a bag of pet food sitting next to Penny's bowl. And as a final accent, I did put in that column right there on the edge. I thought that was a nice touch. And here I'm putting in the food bowl for Penny so she can eat. Oh, and I just realized after about 10 minutes of recording that I completely forgot to mention what the guy's name was. His name is Brian Bell. So the cat's Penny Bell. Why did I forget? I forgot to say the guy's name, but I remember the cat's name. What is wrong with me? But yeah, his name is Brian, so I'll call him Brian from now on instead of guy who lives here. I don't know. But yeah, I just put in a window right there in the dining room in case you didn't notice that. There wasn't there one originally, but I felt like it was a little bit dark, so I don't know. I just stuck one in there. I guess it's more of a foyer than a dining room since there's not really a dining table. And I guess this side is kind of blue, like it's right over in the living room area, but then the kitchen and entrance area is blue. And I also put another blue university poster. And pretty much all the wall decorations in this house are just university posters because, this guy can't really afford any fancy drawings and, he's a guy, so I don't think he would really want fancy paintings. Well, actually, he's an artist, so forget that I said that. He probably would hang his own paintings up around the place. But, until he gets enough paintings to hang up, he's just going to go cheap university posters to decorate the place. And I put a couple shelves there, and I stuck some of those pendant flags underneath the top shelf just as, I don't know, I guess an interesting accent. And right now I'm moving on to doing the paintings, and I went with this paneling that I believe also came with University Life. And I liked the green color that it had, but I wanted a more textured pattern, so I just put in a more textured pattern and then put the green color on that and, put it all around. And here in the kitchen, I'm replacing that with a tile. And I didn't like how just using the straight tile wall looks, so I just used the paint wall, I guess, the wall with crown and base molding, and then put, a small tile pattern on that. And now the main area is done, so I'm moving on to the bathroom. And I initially tried to go for a red color, since this guy likes red, but I don't know, the red bathroom just looked weird, so, here you go, the red tiles and the red wall. I don't know why, but red just didn't work. And I also tried making the countertops red tile, but that just looked really, really weird. So I changed it back to wood, and I also experimented with making it green and using the same small tiled wall that was in the kitchen. And I ended up using the same blue wall that was in the kitchen and making the floor all white. And I actually do like how that looks, and I made the countertops gray instead of, so I feel like that one with the kohler blue color a little bit better. I put in a large mirror behind the counters and then put some columns on the sides of them to kind of separate it and, make a nice accent. And that also nicely separates the counter and sink area from the washer. I put another washer in the bathroom because I wanted to have a washer in it, and there wasn't really another place. And I did actually remember to put a drying line outside in this house. And right there, I just used the University Life rug and made it a mix of, I guess, like grayish brown and blue and white. And I like how that looks. I actually keep forgetting to use that rug, even though I see other people use it. And I'm like, oh, that looks neat. I need to remember to use it. But I kept forgetting. But in this house, I did make use of it a lot more than I normally do. And it's actually a really nice rug. I think I'm definitely going to try using that more from now on. And I put in some red towels there. I wanted there to be something red in this bathroom. So, I did that with the towels. And instead of the house did have 2 bedrooms, but I made the smaller room a art/music room just because, he doesn't really need another bedroom. And I felt like it would be better to make it an art studio than a guest bedroom since, there wasn't any space for art stuff out in the main area. So I thought it'd be really good to just devote a whole room to his hobbies. So I just put a ton of the art desks and objects from University Life in there, just made it really, really cluttered, because like I said, this guy just has a lot of clutter. He's got a lot of stuff laying around. And I did try to do some more interesting things with decorating this house, and I actually really, really love how this renovation turned out. I definitely like it more than the monotone renovation. I think part of that is because I did have the clients, so I had a little bit more, I guess you could say, guidance when it came to picking out the furnishings and everything. I feel like there's more of a purpose when I was putting in things, like I was trying to make it suit the taste of the sim. So I definitely like the client thing, it's really fun. I think it's something I'm going to do more in the future. So if you guys do have any other ideas for types of clients that you want to see, definitely suggest them in the comments below, because I'm going to need some more after I do the super feminine renovation next time. So, leave me some suggestions for future renovations. And I put another one of these flags in there. I did use a different symbol, one with a different symbol, but, just putting some more posters and wall clutter up. And right now I'm just putting in the walls and floors. I used the same wood floors out in the main area and just went with a teal wall. I kept it pretty simple. There's no accent walls in there. And lastly, I'm just changing curtains to be orange so they complement the blue. And the last room that I'm furnishing is the bedroom. And I actually got through this room pretty quickly. I did use that same cheaper bed that I used in the monotone renovation, and I changed the wood to be a black color, and I just kept the red bed sheet that was on it because I really liked how that looked. And there's 2 different end tables. I figured the one on the left would be like he just found some cheap worn out end table and painted it a red color to try and cover up the wear. And then for the other end table, it's just like a plastic dinner tray, and of course he's also got some mismatching lamps. He doesn't really care where the lamps came from, just that he has two lamps, I guess. And I also stuck two mirrors behind the bed, and I really like how that looks. And I also realized that I forgot to add a litter box in for Penny, so I just put that in, and another pet bed for her in here, so at night she can just curl up in there and be near him. And I also put in a cat scratcher and some toys, because I forgot that as well. And I did make the rug and the curtains green to complement with the red bed, and I'm just putting some more posters and stuff up, because, like I said, this guy has no fancy paintings, and I made the dresser a black pattern that matched the wood color on the bed. And I guess the reason why, he has a nice bed and everything else is kind of crappy is that maybe he figured, since I sleep on this thing, I should spend a reasonable amount of money on it, but then with everything else, he just went cheap, with everything else. And I also used this milk crate bookshelf here, he just found some milk crates, some wood, just stacked it all on top of each other. And, it works. And I think despite this being a frugal themed renovation, and using some not as pretty objects, I think it still ended up turning out really well for using things that typically wouldn't look good. And I did stick another one of those string photograph things, but I stuck that one diagonal just to make it look a little bit different. And now the interior is done, so I'm just going to be finishing up the exterior for the rest of the video. So I did use these, I guess, porch fencings that came, I'm not sure what to call them, but they're the fencings that came with Supernatural. I guess fencings with columns in them would be an appropriate name. But for the front bumped out area, I went with a brick pattern. That is actually going to be the brick pattern that is on the foundation of the house. And I used that wall that has the molding on the top of it, just because that's a really nice wall to use for the foundation. And I wanted to have some kind of color up there on the further back roof. If that makes any sense, the one I just put the red color on. And I did experiment with putting a hipped roof in there because for some reason I thought that would look good. So I did play around with that for a little bit, but ultimately I didn't like how it looked, so I do end up getting rid of it. But here I'm just playing around changing the wood on the porch, and I just used a wood pattern and made it a darker wood to kind of go with the brick. And here I'm just experimenting with changing the color of the siding. I did try using the, I guess, siding wall that came with the game, but I don't really like how the siding looks, so I just use a wood pattern to make siding, which I think looks more realistic and kind of has a nice worn look to it. And that's also kind of the same wood pattern I used up there on the roof I'm changing the color of now. So I was trying to make it a nice bright color, and I also was trying to make it red because, his favorite color is red, but I ended up going with this light blue color, which I think looks nice. And I did get rid of the hip roof because I realized it looks kind of weird. It definitely didn't look right, so I'm putting that wall up there as well. And I'm using the barn wall with the top border on it just so there's some separation between the different kinds of siding there. And I put some brown, I made the edges of the window brown just so it was separate from the white. It just looked weird having white windows on white siding, so I just did that to make things look a little more interesting. And now I'm moving on to the terrain painting. Like with the monotone renovation, I kept things pretty simple as far as landscaping goes. I just made a little garden with some mulch in and put different kinds of plants in there in front of the house. Nothing too crazy, but it definitely looks nice. I don't know, sometimes it's nice just to go kind of simple with the landscaping, and here I'm trying to cover up the dead-looking grass with some flowers, just because I didn't really like that, and as you saw there, I moved the drying line underneath the tree, which I think is a nice spot for it. But I'm just continuing to touch up all the landscaping just to make it look like the grass is a little less dead. And I did kind of like how the terrain painting was already done there, so I didn't change it too much, and I stuck a big oak tree, because I feel like there needed to be something in the middle of the yard there. It's just a lot of empty space. And I finished it off by putting the bohemian chair there. And now we're moving on to the screenshots. So here's a shot of the outside. There's just a couple because once again there's not a whole lot to show. And here you see Brian, and Penny's on the chair there. He's just sitting there playing video games, and Penny's sitting on the chair watching him. And that's the only picture that he's in, just because I feel like having the cinema kind of block things. And I think the desk area is my favorite part of the main area. The desk part was my favorite in the collab that I did with Abby. I don't know, I guess I've been doing well with desk areas lately. But here's the kitchen, and I think it's for the rest of the screenshots you can tell what they're of. So I hope you'll really enjoy this renovation. I actually had a lot of fun doing it, and I feel really good about how it turned out. Well, I hope you'll enjoy this video. Thanks for watching, and bye!